Hola.
Hello, beautiful. How are
What's
you?
up?
I'm well. How are you?
Oh my God, I can't hear you.
You can't.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I don't know why you can't hear me. Um.
Hola, you guys.
Maybe I need to come on and come off.
Yeah, maybe.
Did you hear that?
I can hear you, but you sound so low. Can you guys hear her? Is it just my phone?
I don't see any comments.
Hey, Jackie, what's up?
Maybe if I put let's see if this will work. Hold on.
You can hear her like good. So what the fuck is wrong with my phone?
Okay. I thought I was tripping.
Damn, it must be my phone.
All right. I feel better now knowing it's your phone.
Oh, there it goes. Okay, there it goes. It was my phone. Sorry. I'm like, I can't hear you.
I'm like, and I can't find my earpods. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? You look so cute.
So do you. Thank you. Question.
Yes.
How do I pronounce your name?
Eka. I was gonna ask you the same thing.
Shayna.
Shayna. Okay.
Okay. Oh, I like your name.
I love your name too. All right, so let me just invite, let me see, people are coming in now. All right, you guys. So I usually do this on Instagram, but we started on Facebook. I just switched over to Instagram because there's more features over there or whatnot. But we're back on Facebook tonight. And I'm so excited because my Facebook audience is a little different. So we're going to see how tonight goes. But for those of you who haven't been here, my slogan is where our guests keep it G and our audience keeps it judgment free, because we do not judge. I don't like people who judge. And, we have to appreciate people who can be vulnerable and open and brave enough to share their stories. So, people aren't going to do that if you judge them, right?
I love that.
Thank you.
On my lives, I said we don't do no judging. The minute you judge, you're gonna get blocked. Call me
exactly blocked. As it should be, because I hate that. But anyways, you guys. So tonight, if you watched before on Instagram, I did interview your business partner, right?
Yes.
So Shayna's business partner.
The co-founder of Herpes Can Never Miss, Amber Spratt Jones. You were on live with her on Instagram. Yes.
Did you watch the whole live? Were you in the beginning?
I was in the comments.
Oh, yeah, you were. From the beginning, you definitely were. Okay, so this conversation, I do kind of want it to be a little similar because I want your story, because we got hers. Obviously, yours is different, right?
Yes.
So we're going to go through all of that. But before we do, why don't you tell everybody who you are, what you do? I did tag a link to her website, you guys, if you want to check it out. But go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I'm Shayna Singleton, also known as the Herpes Goddess and founder of Herpes Never, where our mission is to be at war with the stigma until our community feels comfortable being open about their status and proud of their sexuality. If you're someone who has herpes and suffering in silence, if you go to the link in my bio, you'll be able to find all sorts of resources, from herpes diet and remedies, how to disclose, how to have safer sex, a journal, supplements, herpes topical products, a dating site. Everything that you need is going to be a
dating site for people who
positive singles, the petition for the herpes vaccine, search engines, my YouTube channel. We have it all for you, including the private Facebook group where we show up for support group meetings every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank y'all for joining.
I did not know there was a whole dating site for people who are positive.
Yes,
wow.
There is. I'm kind of I have mixed feelings about it, only because I think it's a site to trauma bond. It's a site to go on, and you have a whole bunch of people who haven't went on the process of accepting their status and trying to fill a void, and then they do that with each other. So as soon as the community is healed, I'll probably be more supportive of it. But knowing how damaged the herpes community is, I'm kind of I'll stay off of it. But if it works for a cousin, we call everybody in the community a cousin. And by all means, go to the dating site.
I love that, a cousin.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting, and we're gonna get back to that later on. Hey, Leash, I see you in the comments. Thank you. She said we look beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay, so and before we get into the conversation, so you guys, shout out to our sponsor tonight. She browed it at Beauty Brats. She did my eyebrows. These are permanent makeup eyebrows, you guys. Check them out. No makeup added to my eyebrows, so I love them. Check her out. She's on East Main Street in Bridgeport, Connecticut. All right. So, like I said, I do want to have a similar conversation, and you know, we did get into some things.
Yeah.
All right, but I want to start from the beginning. Right. First of all, is herpes like the only STD, or is it an STD or it's a STI?
STD, STI, tomatoes.
Okay.
They started STI because they wanted to feel like less of a stigma or it sound better than STD. But at one point they all fell into STD category, and now we say STI. So tomato.
And is that the only STD you've ever contracted?
No, I've gotten chlamydia before in my past. I was younger. I was probably a teenager when I contracted chlamydia. That was my first STD.
That one is one that I hear quite often.
Yes.
And it's curable, right? With like
it's curable, but if you don't know that you have it, it can do a lot of damage to your reproductive system. And most people who get chlamydia have no symptoms. A lot of people wait till they're showing symptoms to get tested. And you can't do that, y'all, because sometimes you won't have symptoms, especially with chlamydia. Some people do, some people don't. So go get tested.
We're going to talk more about that later too. All right, but so that's interesting because I didn't know that. I know I asked Amber, I think that was the only one she ever had. All right, so what how did you meet? Do you know who gave you it, or?
No, I don't know. I assume that I knew who gave me herpes, but I was so uneducated when I was younger. I didn't know much about sex health. I was just winging it and figuring it out as I went through. Excuse me. One, herpes can lie dormant in your body. Oh, excuse me. Herpes can lie dormant in your body for years before it decides to have an outbreak, if you ever have an outbreak. So that's one. 2, you can test negative for herpes and still be herpes positive. 3, I wasn't requiring to see STD results from my partner before having unprotected sex. I was taking word of mouth. I was putting my sex health responsibility on another human being that wasn't even responsible for theirs. And last, I didn't know herpes wasn't included in your average full panel STD test. So you got to ask for a full panel, and you got to ask for the herpes test on top of that. I didn't know that. I didn't tell my doctors to print out my results and explain them to me line by line to even catch if I've been getting tested for herpes or not. I was okay with the call from the doctor telling me that I was good and assume that I was good for everything. So for all of those reasons, the person that I thought gave me herpes, I simply cannot blame that person.
But you still don't know who it is though?
No.
Okay. So during any of your sexual experiences, did you run into a time where you saw something, like you saw a bump here? You never saw anything that like gave you pause?
That's what made me go to the doctor to go get tested. I had what I thought was a razor bump.
Well, no, not you, your partners. Like anytime you had sexual encounters.
Oh, listen, y'all, most people with herpes are asymptomatic. According to the World Health Organization and the CDC, 85% of people with herpes do not know that they have herpes because they're silent carriers. There's only 10 to 15% of us that actually experience outbreaks. Some people will get one outbreak and never have an outbreak again. So people with herpes are not going to have signs on their genitals or anywhere on their body letting you know that they have herpes. You can look down there for bumps all day if you want to, but it's still not going to mean if they have herpes or not. There's nothing to look for to see if your partner has herpes.
Yeah, so I saw something that said like 85% of people who have herpes don't know that they have herpes. Yes. Which means only, wait, I'm bad at math. Only, what is that? 15% of people who actually have it know.
Basically, they say 10 to 15% actually experience outbreaks. So mostly the people who experience outbreaks know that they have herpes. There's no way of not knowing that you have herpes. But it's the people who don't have any symptoms, who don't experience any outbreaks, who you don't know.
So you said that the first sign was you saw a little bump.
I saw a bump, but it was painful. And it was on my vulva in a place where it could be a hair bump or it could easily be something else. I was in a relationship at the time. I told my boyfriend to look at it. He said, babe, don't worry about it. Go to the doctor and get it checked. I went to the doctor to go get it checked. The doctor told me it was a razor bump. She was sure. It didn't, my spirit wasn't sitting well. So I had to demand that she test the area. And she said, I'm just going to do that to make you feel better. But I promise you, it's just a razor bump. If you don't hear from me in 2 weeks, you're fine. I didn't hear from her in 2 weeks. I forgot I had the painful razor bump. Oh. And if I was anybody else, I would have walked out of there saying, my doctor said I had a razor bump, not knowing that I had herpes.
So Ashley's in the comments. She is a esthetician, and she does waxes on women. So she said it can look like an ingrown hair, basically.
Sometimes it shows up differently on everyone. Sometimes it can look like a small circle with a cluster of smaller bumps. It can look like an ingrown hair. It can look like a razor bump. It could look like a whitehead, a pimple. It can look like a paper cut, or it can just be redness and swelling. So herpes just shows up different on everyone.
Ashley said clusters. Yeah, like I guess it's a raised bump with like little tiny bumps inside of it, maybe. Okay. Oh well, maybe she's asking, is it a cluster? Like, do you see a bunch of bumps? Is that? Because I feel like that's the usual thing. Like when you see a picture of herpes, when I remember back like in high school, they showed us pictures and it was like a bunch of bumps all together.
Scary pictures, but look at a cold sore. Do you ever see it everywhere? Sometimes it's just in one spot in the face, right?
Wait, don't talk about cold sores yet. We're gonna get there later.
But it's herpes. So if you want an example of what a herpes looks like, cold sores on people's mouths is an example of what a herpes outbreak will look like anywhere else on your body. And for me, I don't have bumps everywhere when I'm having an outbreak. It's literally one spot, the same spot every time. But that's my story. There's some women and there's some men in the community who have it in several different places. Me, I only have it in one place.
Kai Weaver asked, did your boyfriend end up getting herpes as well?
I don't have a boyfriend.
No, at the time, you said your boyfriend at the time.
He said he doesn't have herpes. So I wouldn't know. I haven't seen his sex history or his results to confirm or deny.
But go on with your story. You said, so your boyfriend at the time.
Mm-hmm. So we forgot about the razor bump. I'm having pregnancy symptoms now. I take a pregnancy test. I'm in denial. He tells me I'm pregnant. I go back to sick call. The doctor comes in and says, I have good news and bad news. What do you want first? I'm like, give me the bad news first. Let's end it off with good news. She said, bad news is that you tested positive for HSV2. I didn't know what HSV2 was. She was like, you have genital herpes. Just don't have sex during an outbreak. Bad advice, by the way. Okay, what's the good news? Good news is you're pregnant. I did not want to be pregnant at the time. So never got the good news.
Well, that's pretty like offensive isn't the right word, but you don't know if every woman's happy to hear they're pregnant. So for your OBGYN to say that, by the way, was she Caucasian or was she African American?
She was white.
I was gonna guess that, but so you found out, you said, okay, so what's the good news? So were you that calm, like when she told you, because you didn't know, right? You didn't know what HSV2 was. So you were calm.
Told me it was genital herpes. So she did tell I was confused. So she clarified. I think I was more so in shock and in the stigma of my pregnancy than I was really with the diagnosis.
Oh, okay.
I took my pregnancy way harder than I took finding out that I had herpes at the time. And the minute I left the doctor, the minute I got sat in my car, I FaceTimed my boyfriend and I let him know the situation. because I was so stigmatized, I didn't realize I put the stigma on me immediately. When he was very accepting, and he wanted to do everything just to make me, you know, feel better and just not worried, happy about the
Wait,
baby.
so you told him and he was accepting? By the way, Lou, I don't know if you saw his comment. He said, if the coochie is fire, I'm getting herpes.
What? Period.
Aura said, did she ever apologize for assuming incorrectly, which is your OBGYN?
It's not an OBGYN, y'all. This is a doctor, a military army doctor. You go to sick call, they come and see. It wasn't my OBGYN.
Oh, so you you were in the military as well. You're in the military.
Yeah,
Sorry, guys, I forgot my other light. I'm like, why am I so dark?
No. I'm a veteran now, so.
Yes, you're a veteran. Well, thank you for your service, girl.
For your support.
Okay, so that's even crazier to me a little bit. But so was your boyfriend also in the
He was in the
military? Okay. So
when he was taken back when I did tell him I had herpes. He wasn't happy.
That's what I was gonna ask.
A little bit upset, but we were on and off toxic relationship. But I also told him that I was pregnant. And we also been together for 3 years on and off. Mm-hmm. So at the time, with lack of knowledge and being so stigmatized, putting the stigma on myself, I took that acceptance as, you have herpes, you gave it to me, because why would you be so?
Because why would you be so okay with it?
Yeah, but I wasn't thinking, I've been with this woman for all of these years. I love her. She's about to have my baby. Like, we gonna be okay. So
I mean, no, if I was in your position, I would think the same thing too, because I would think a man would be like, you know.
Yeah, you would think that, and I would have thought that at the time, because that's how I was feeling about myself. And I was projecting. The minute I found out I had herpes, no one knew that I had herpes, and yet I felt the weight of the stigma enough to take his acceptance as you gave me herpes immediately. That's toxic.
It is, but so did you get upset with him, or did you hide it?
First night we had sex as normal.
Wow. Unprotected?
I mean, that's what we've been doing.
No,
yeah. But just being pregnant and looking at the relationship, I decided to leave him. I think herpes was just like a cherry on top for me, but our relationship was extremely toxic at the time. I wasn't right for him. He wasn't right for me. And when I found out I was having a son, for some reason, that day in my gender reveal is when we broke up, because I was just like, my son needs a better example of a woman loving his father, and needs a better example of somebody loving his mom. And we not getting that part right.
So you broke up the day of your gender reveal. That's crazy. Melissa Marie said, I'm sorry I missed the beginning. How did you catch it? She's not exactly sure who gave her the STD, but she was in a relationship when she found out. And so that's the man we're talking about right now.
According to herpes science, there's no way that you can be 100% sure where your herpes came from. Period. And you can only catch herpes through skin-to-skin contact with the point of entry of somebody's virus. So that's how I caught herpes. I had skin-to-skin contact with someone who has herpes.
So this is actually a question that I was going to ask, because so you were pregnant. So you did end up having your child because you said you had a gender reveal, and everyone's asking, all right, so Sabrina Verdinaire answered the question. She said a C-section is what you would have to have.
That's a lie. I don't know who told that.
You're pregnant and you found out that you have herpes. Was that the first thing? Because that would have been the first thing on my mind. Like, oh my God, if I have this baby, you know, because they showed us in high school. I always go back to high school where they showed us the baby who had like herpes all over his face.
Yeah.
You know, that's the only picture that they show us. Like, was that the thought behind in your mind?
I didn't have much knowledge about herpes. So to find out I was pregnant, to find out I had herpes in the same day, I was able to create a plan with my doctor immediately as far as how my pregnancy was going to go. They prescribed me with antiviral medication when I hit 32 weeks pregnant that I took to the term of my pregnancy. They did a full examination of the birth canal to clear me for a vaginal birth. If I was having an active outbreak, then they would have scheduled a C-section, but I wasn't. My son was born. He doesn't have herpes. Now, there is a thing called neonatal herpes that usually happens to women who don't know that they have herpes. And women assume that when they get pregnant that they automatically get tested for everything. And that is just not true. You have to still ask to get tested for herpes. Because if you don't know you have herpes and you are having an active outbreak and you decide to have a vaginal delivery and the doctor does not know, your child could come in contact with the virus on the way out and have neonatal herpes. An infant's immune system is not built up enough to handle the virus, and neonatal herpes can be fatal. It attacks them way differently. Now, the people who say I was born with herpes, no, herpes is not in your blood. It lives in your nervous system. You can't genetically pass down herpes. That's not how herpes
So that was
works.
a lie when I saw the baby in high school with the herpes on his face?
Probably had neonatal herpes, and the baby probably didn't survive.
Oh my God, that's terrible. Sabrina Verdiner said, if you don't have an outbreak, you can have a regular birth. If you have a outbreak, you have to do C-section.
That's basically.
Okay. All right. So, so I think your story's so interesting because, you know, I was going to ask you, how did you immediately feel? Like, I'm not going to lie to you. If my doctor told me, hey, you have genital herpes, yes, I would be depressed. I think I would be depressed. But at the same time, you also found out you're pregnant. So did you go through that period where you were like, you felt like you were depressed, or you didn't go through that because you were worried about more of your baby?
For the first 2 years of my diagnosis, I was more worried about my baby. I just was depressed about that, depressed about my situation. That's another story. But I didn't feel the weight of the herpes stigma until 2017. I found out in 2015, didn't really feel it till 2017 when I was ready to put myself out there and date again. And that's when I started feeling all of the feels, like, oh my gosh, I'm herpes, who's gonna want me? I'm a single mom with herpes, da 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 da. Just the stigma was on me. I am proud of myself because in 2017 I met myself. So I was already on my journey of being aware and holding myself accountable. So as I'm going through the motions, I'm in awareness. I'm like, I know how I'm feeling right now. This is unacceptable. See, I felt the weight of the stigma like everyone else. The only difference between me and a lot of people in the community is that I did not accept that narrative for myself. I refuse to accept that narrative for myself because what the narrative speaks is just not true, especially when it comes to me. So I went on that, just self-reflecting. If I felt dirty, why did I feel dirty? When we are triggered by some things, it's because there's some truth behind it. So now I need to go in my life and unpack what areas am I showing up dirty? Maybe improve in those areas so that that word don't hit me as much. And now I'm laughing because dirty, where, how? Those are the little things that I was doing. Like if a thought will come along or a limiting belief will pop up in my head, I would challenge it.
So Lou McLean asks, does cold sore means you have herpes or it's just chapped lips? Cold sores are herpes. We're gonna talk about it later on, though. Don't say anything yet because I'm gonna bring that up later on. But yes, Lou McLean, cold sores are herpes. Jay Sky said cold sores are a type of herpes. Is treatable. Is it treatable? Are cold sores treatable? Well,
you can't get rid of herpes, y'all.
You can't get rid of it. Once you have it, you have it. That's it. Okay. So who was the first person that you told you had herpes? Did you hide it during your pregnancy or?
No, like I said,
Well, it was your boyfriend.
I told my friends, yeah, like I told my friends and my boyfriend.
And did
And
your
like,
friends, like, how was the reaction from your friends? Was there like any judgment or?
no, there wasn't any judgment. It was just love. I found out a friend that dated somebody who had herpes, and they was telling me how, oh, I dated someone who had herpes. Like, it's not a big deal.
Oh,
They
wow.
were very comforting.
Wow. Somebody actually commented on my post saying that they dated someone with an STD. I'm not sure if it was herpes, but I wanted her to join in if she's here. I don't know. Okay, so did you get any negative feedback from your family?
No, but my family kind of found out when the world found out. Like when I was talking about it publicly, that's when they found out. And they just don't have that space to tell me about something that I'm living with. So,
Was there a reason that you didn't tell them until you went public?
there wasn't no reason, and just that's none of their business.
Okay.
Like I told my friends, the people who are close to me, the people that I'm tight knit with, but as we all know, you're not always tight knit when it comes to family.
Very true. Lou McLean said, Eka, here's some stars. Yeah, drop those stars, Lou. Because I'm sure you probably owe me for a flyer or something. All right, so I completely understand, like, coming to terms. All right, so coming to terms with yourself, like you said, you did all that self-reflecting and you decided to, you know, dirty wear, like you said, like, you know, you did all this work, and I understand that, but what took you to the point where you were like, you know what, I want to do this publicly and I want to start a platform and a community? Like, what was it that made you get to that point?
I had just got my second bachelor's in culinary arts and food science, and I was a plant-based chef for a spiritual community. I found my community, and in that, people were drawn to me by the way that I loved myself and showed up for myself. So I was like this self-proclaimed self-love coach, because people were starting to pay for me to speak about self-love. In doing that, I'm doing this work, and knowing I have herpes in the back of my head, I'm in all these private herpes Facebook groups on Facebook, and people are talking about how they want to unalive themselves, or how they're staying in toxic and abusive relationships because of fear of nobody wanting them. And that wasn't my narrative. And I felt like it was in my purpose. I feel like my purpose is to inspire people to love themselves more. And herpes has given me an avenue to do that in a way that I couldn't have ever imagined for myself. So I decided to talk about it. I didn't want people feeling that way. I have herpes too, and this is not my narrative. Why not share my perspective and my point of view?
That's awesome. And Amber, who's your partner in Herpes, Herpes Could Never, which is your organization, it's a business.
Yes.
Okay. Did you guys know each other prior? Like, did you know her when you found out you got herpes, or?
No, I had started Slay the Stigma, and I had already created a movement. I had 36 people come out publicly talking about their herpes, and I was going viral back to back on TikTok at the time. My following went to like 100K then, and it was a lot. So I'm like, I don't have to do this by myself. And I reached out, I saw her video, Herpes Saved My Life, on YouTube, and I slid in her DMs on Instagram, and I was just telling her about my movement, what I'm going to do. I'm like, I'm going to do this with or without you. Are you down? And we were working together ever since.
Wow. Now, recently I did see, I don't know, I don't know if this is still a current situation, but I did see you were doing videos on Instagram with your new love interest, your partner. No? Oh, that's not your partner?
We are content creators, y'all.
Oh.
So you got to take what I put on the internet for a grain of salt. Herpes Goddess is Herpes Goddess. Shayna Singleton is Shayna Singleton. You won't get much of my life on my social media. I create relatable posts for everybody in the community. So you'll see all different types of anything to bring. And we both had herpes. We're both content creators, and you don't get to see sensual, close up herpes content like that. And we want the herpes community to feel seen, so we gonna provide it.
So now, at this point, you are a single mother, like you said, with herpes. At what point did you join the dating world again, and how did you do that?
My idea of dating is not your traditional idea of dating. Don't do the girlfriend title. I don't want to be anybody's girlfriend. I'd rather much so be engaged to a best friend. So I build foundations with people. I want to know you for a few
I
years.
love that.
I want to see, are you elevating? Are you evolving? Are you staying in the same place? Who are you when you're mad, when you're sad, when you're depressed, when you're happy, when you're grieving? Who are you in other relationships? How are you when you break up? I want to know the person. I want a best friend in and out, someone who feels like my friendship they can't live without. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to dating, I have a lot of friends that I'm building foundation.
I love that. You know what? That might be what I need to do. I love that. Because I hate dating. Like, I hate the girlfriend, boyfriend title, too. So, I love that you said that.
Well, we'll try it out. I mean, it gives you an opportunity to get to know people and where they stand in your life. Who's investing in you? Who is keeping up with you? Who is keeping up with themselves? Like, people change, and sometimes it takes more than a year or two to get to know somebody for who they truly are.
Definitely. Ashley says, so nothing long term?
So nothing long term. No, I'm not ready to commit to anybody. I'm okay with just having my friendships right now.
This is a great question. Melissa Marie said, how and if did you tell your child?
How and if my child knows, I'm talking about herpes all the time, so it wasn't like a sit down and talk to my child about it. He just grew up learning and knowing about herpes. My son will hold up the 7-foot herpes connected flag on the street with us. Like, he knows everything he needs to know about herpes. He knows what to do, what not to do, and he's 6 years old.
I love that. Vanilla Vibes, we're getting to that right now because I want to know, so your first sexual encounter after you know that you have herpes, how did that go? Like, when you met someone that you knew you wanted to have sex with him.
Okay, so my first encounter wasn't good for me.
Wait, hold on one time. Simone, I see you in the, don't leave because I wanted to add you on later, but go ahead.
My first encounter wasn't good for me only because I was so much in my head. I decided to tell ex-boyfriends. My ex-boyfriends were okay with continuing. A lot of my exes just love me. You know what I'm saying? So herpes come with me. So I found out that I couldn't get turned on anymore. I had no connection to my vagina. She was dry as the Sahara Desert. It's because I wasn't feeling sexy anymore.
It happens.
And I had to explore that. I had to do the work. I had to do the mental healing, trauma healing, the shadow work, the mapping of my vagina, the mirror work.
The mapping of your vagina, so like figuring out.
Just, okay, so when you're trying to reconnect with your yoni, you go through stages. One, women, we can stay in our heads. A lot of women suffer with getting orgasms. Why? Because they're too much in their head. What do I look like? How do I smell? This kind of hurts, but it seems like they like it, so I'm going to keep on doing it. And it prevents you from reaching those climax. So that's what was happening with me, with how I felt about myself and my herpes diagnosis. It was preventing me from reaching that area. So I had to heal those things. I had to do the mental work first. And then I went to see a sex coach who is a doctor. And again, a lot of our disconnection with our yonis can stem from trauma. So when I would masturbate, I was very clit driven. Like, I would stay on the clit and nothing else.
That's me.
See, but that's you're doing yourself a disservice, because women can experience 13 different types of orgasms, and it's not just clitoral orgasms. It's touch, it's sensation, it's mental, it's the G spot, it's so many different areas that you can orgasm with, climax with. So my doctor gave me homework assignments to map out my vagina, to explore different areas, even areas that I didn't like to explore them. Find out what areas you feel sensation. Find out what areas you don't feel sensation in. From your arms, your legs, your body. Set the mood in the room. Put some lighting. Put some candles. Set a scent. Play some music. Sit in front of the mirror, and find pleasure in yourself.
Who is this doctor? I need this doctor in my life.
Ellie Persall, that's my baby. Sorry.
It's a woman or a man?
It's a woman. It's a woman. But I say all of this to say that in that process,
send me her after this.
I got you. After the process, I was able, you know, it's when I found my power. I'm getting turned on by myself, and now I know what I like. I know what I need. I can communicate that. So after that journey, my sex was better than it was before I found out I had her.
Yeah, I can only imagine. But Ashley, I did see your question. But your first time with a man, or I'm sorry, a sexual partner. How did that go? Like, was this for the moment? Was this?
They came over, and it went like any type of normal.
When did you tell them? Like,
Oh yes, they knew.
Oh,
they knew.
So you told them prior to that?
I went to the recyclables, so I ended up telling them before I even got back to Delaware. I mean, back to the East Coast. I went to move to Virginia at the time. I was living in Hawaii, and I had 2 ex-boyfriends that I told when I lived in Hawaii for 3 years. Okay. So when I got to Virginia, then they already knew the situation. They wanted to come see me. One thing leads to the other, and it happens. And me, in my head, it's just like, you just have the herpes in the back of your head, especially when you're stigmatized. And for them, they just...
You know what? A lot of men, I would think that men would like be shocked or like stray away, but I don't know. Like, I've never had this conversation, but just from the outside looking in, I feel like men are not as turned off by that as I would think they would be.
I think that with my situations, the men knew me. Now, if I was going into a situation with somebody new, I think they would be more turned off by my lack of self-confidence. Now, being so public and, you know, being able to break my own internalized stigma, I get approached by a lot of men and women who don't have herpes. And it's just like, you are just an incredible woman. I love your movement. I love your realness. I love your sense of humor. I just want to get to know you. I have men said, well, if you got herpes, then I guess we got herpes.
Just like Lou said earlier. Yeah.
You know, like, you can have herpes. It's not something that I can change. Comes to my worth, my herpes is not included. It's just a part of me. You accept all of me, or you can walk. I'll pack the door. I'll open the door, pack your bags, and call you an Uber if you want to.
Exactly.
But this is a blessing here, and if you can pass away from this blessing because I have herpes, then you was only here to begin with for what I have to offer in between my legs, and not for me. And I don't want that type of person in my life.
Amen.
Stigmatized version of me, rejection hurt. You know, but this newfound version of me, I have more trust in myself, my energy in this universe, to know that what's for me will not pass me by, and my energy is only going to push away things that are not for me. So rejection turns into redirection before. So that's just...
I love that. But that brings us to Ashley's question, because she asked, what if you're interested in a one-night stand? Do you tell the person, or do you just not do like spontaneous encounters like that?
Of course I tell the person. Always disclose, y'all. You have to disclose. And honestly, I plan on doing that here in New York City. So they already know.
Oh, you in New York?
Yes, I am, for the month.
Girl, you an hour away from me right now. Is Amber with you?
No, she's not. I'm here with family.
Oh my God, I wish you would have told me. Yes. When do you leave?
On the 29th.
That's my birthday, the 29th. Happy birthday. Thank you. Aura asked, do the partners you have other partners that don't have herpes, and do they tell their partners if they're actively with someone that can risk exposure?
Well, I don't know what another grown adult is doing or not, so I can't answer that question.
DJ Pretty Lady, hey girl. She said she's very intelligent.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so then since you found out you had herpes, have you only been going to like the guys that you know, or I'm sorry, your sexual partners from previous, or have you had a new encounter with someone?
My last encounter was last year, August. Purposely, I'm very picky, extremely picky. I'm planning on having another encounter maybe this week or next week.
Okay.
I want to be picky with, so
with a New York dude. Okay.
It's that.
Aura said, do you advise that they do tell if you can't say what they're like? Do you tell them, hey, I have, well, because you told them your previous partners.
My loves, my name is Shayna Singleton, also known as the Herpes Goddess. I wrote 3 books talking about herpes. My business is called Herpes Never. People, everybody know. I can't escape telling someone that I have it. Like, the minute they ask me what I do for a living, it comes out. It's not something that I am.
So at this point, right when you meet someone, they know. Yeah. Like,
I walk around with shirts that say Herpes Never. I walk around with shirts that say herpes positive, shame negative. I walk around with bikinis and bathing suits that say herpes positive on it. Like,
at what point, for someone who is not public like you, right? At what point do you think that they should disclose? Like, what would be your advice?
I feel like if you fear disclosure, you're not ready to disclose. And you're only ready once you've done the work to learn how to accept your status. It's hard to ask somebody else to accept you when you haven't done the work to accept you. It's hard to ask somebody else to love you when you don't even love you 100% because of your herpes virus. So learn how to do that first. And once you learn how to do that, then you're ready to disclose.
I love that. Amen. Because that could go for anything. If you don't love yourself 100%, no matter what, it doesn't matter if it's herpes or whatever it is, you know, yep. How can you expect someone else to love you? But Vanilla Vibe said, and that's true. Okay, so Aura was actually asking, do you tell the men, or I'm sorry, the sexual partners that you have, do you tell them, you know what, you should advise your next partner that you've been with a woman who is herpes positive?
No, because they don't have to do that. It's none of their business. Okay. As an adult, you should be requiring to see test results and wearing protection until you can do it quarterly so you know for sure.
You know what? That's okay. So when you first said that, I was a little like, okay, but you're right. Like, if you're having sex with someone, it doesn't matter who they were with before. You should be asking them, hey, like, you know, can we get your results? Which I know most people are not, because we know sex is like a lot of times spur of the moment, one night stands, and we know not everybody's asking this, but that's your responsibility. That's not.
Yeah, that's your responsibility. If you're going to put yourself out there to take a risk in having sex with somebody, why are you just having unprotected sex or even condom sex with someone you've never even seen their test results? Ask to see their test results, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Vanilla Vibe said, oh, she lost me there. But what she's trying to say is, you're an adult, you know? So if you choose to lay down with someone, it's your responsibility to ask them, you know, have you been with someone or, you know, can I see your results? Like, that's your responsibility at that point. I think you're right.
Because if they had sex with me and I didn't give them herpes, why the hell do they got to tell you that I have herpes and they slept with me? They only got to think about it if they have herpes.
Aura asked, of course, but herpes can be passed. Oh, Aura asked, can it be passed with protection as well?
Great question. Condoms only lessen your chance of STDs such as herpes, HPV, syphilis by 50%. Why with herpes? Because it has to cover the area in which the virus has entered your body. So say if I'm a male and I have a penis and my herpes shows up on the top of my penis, then that condom is going to 100% protect you from getting herpes from me, because it's covering the part where the virus entered my body. It's skin-to-skin contact with that area. And then it's still not guaranteed that you're going to get herpes from that person if you do come in skin-to-skin contact with that area. Now, say if your partner is a male who experiences herpes right above his penis, right? So he puts the condom on, but it doesn't cover where the virus has entered his body, and he's doing back shots. Now you're in contact with that area. There's a possibility that you may get herpes from that person. If they're going through viral shedding, if they're not going through viral shedding, it's a lot of factors that come into play.
Hold that thought. Ann Rose, hey Tony. She said, so men that don't have it still lay down with you knowing that you do?
Yes. Do men that don't have it lay down with you?
Vanilla Vibes said, so Vanilla Vibes, she was the one who said that you lost her. She said, she just said it's not their business. That's where she lost me, because as it is my responsibility to ask them, I'm asking because anything going in my crotch is my business. No. Well, yes, but yeah, she's saying that it's only her business to tell whoever she's going to be with. If he goes and then lays down with you, at that point, it is your responsibility to ask, like, can I see your results? You know, and if you don't want to ask that, you can ask, like, have you ever, you know, had sex with someone who has an STD? But those, I mean, at that point, it is your responsibility. I agree. We can agree to disagree, but I do agree with Shayna, because at that point, you can't say what somebody's going to tell the next person.
And don't lay down with people if you don't know what they have going on. Period. Go get tested with them. Tell them to print out their results. Tell them to bring up the MedWeb portal and read it. Because some people don't get tested for everything. Some people just get tested for gonorrhea, chlamydia, and trick, and that's it.
And most people, like Shayna said in the beginning, herpes is not a part of the standard testing. You have to request it. So if you've never requested it, you may have it and not know.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, do you know how many different tests they do for syphilis? I can always tell when someone has told me they've seen an STD panel, because they lie to me and, yeah, my syphilis came out positive. I'm like, well, how many tests did you have for your syphilis? Only one. You know, you're lying. You've probably never even seen the STD panel before. There's like several different tests that they take for just for syphilis alone. Look at your results. Know what you're getting tested for. Yes, I have herpes, but I know all about an STD panel. I know what to look for. I know how to read somebody else's. I know how to ask somebody for their STD panel. And I know what's going on with my body. I don't need to ask somebody who they've been sleeping with to feel secure in my own sexual health. You should do that for yourself.
Ann Rose, Tony says, I respect you 100 because it's females that's not keeping it real, just spreading it. It's a lot of people doing that. And that's why I wanted to have her on, so we can, you know, raise some more awareness about this. Aura said, right, so I meant for those that are actively doing their part. Even knowing a risk is there with protection, knowing your choice of contracting it can be higher with someone who is actively with someone but not telling them. His results could be negative, but not the next season. Okay. So what she's trying to say is, you know how you said that you can get tested for herpes and it come back negative, but you actually haven't. So she's saying, since that's part of, you know, this whole whatever, at that point she feels like the whoever you do have sex with should tell, hey, I'm having sexual, you know, encounters with someone who is herpes positive, because he doesn't know if he has it yet. Do you get what I'm saying?
You can ask to see test results, then wait to have sex with the person for another 3 months, and ask to see their test results again in another 3 months, because That's be the max time it would take their body to develop antibodies, and then they'll test positive for it. So if you want to put in the extra step for yourself and your sexual health,
wait the 90 days. So that must be where that came from. The 90-day rule must be, yo, like that's where things came from, because
sometimes it'll take up to 3 months to test positive for HIV test, so you can test negative for HIV and still have it. So if it's really that important to you, which it should be, then you should do that then.
No, that's interesting. Like, people are laughing, but I'm dead serious, because I know jokes and stuff always comes from somewhere. So the 90-day rule must have came from that. It must have, I'm telling you. But anyways, one of the biggest questions, which Lou asked earlier, are cold sores herpes?
Yes. HSV1 is commonly known for herpes, and I just left last week I attended the NIAID/CDC genital herpes workshop, and as of 2017, HSV1 is the leading cause of cold sores and the leading cause of genital
herpes. Now, I found that out when I was going to interview Amber. I was, I like to do my research, and I found out that the number one leading cause for genital herpes is cold sores. So I find that interesting because, when you see commercials on television and stuff, it's like, oh, cold sore medication, like the cold sore stuff that you put on your lips, right? Mm-hmm. Why do you think there's such a differentiation that, the medication for cold sores is promoted like it's a cold? Like, why do you think there's that differentiation when that's the main cause for genital herpes?
First of all, HSV1 or HSV2, we get the same medication. The name cold sores, I think it was a pretty name created so that people can feel better about their lip herpes. Cold sore, if you have a cold sore on your lips, I do too. I just have it on my bottom half of my lips. I feel like cold sores is the leading cause of genital herpes because people feel like if they didn't get their herpes sexually, then they don't have an STD, and they don't have to disclose the fact that they have herpes because they didn't get it sexually. No matter if you didn't get your herpes sexually or not, you can still pass it on to somebody sexually. People with cold sores, when you give someone oral sex, you can pass your lip herpes onto somebody's genitals. It's the same herpes, it's just a different location.
And that's what we're saying, you guys. So the number one cause for genital herpes right now is people with cold sores giving oral sex to people who don't have genital herpes yet. So that's the number one cause. That's what's actually, causing the rise or the spread in herpes. Vanilla Vibes is still stuck on you not telling him to tell, like, it's none of your business. It's none of the next woman's business to know that they had sex with you and you have herpes.
It's not your business to know who I'm having sex with.
But so me finding out, when I found out that cold sores were herpes, you know how, like, first of all, like, I've seen children with cold sores. Yeah. So that was when I was like, you know what? Parents should not be kissing their kids on their lips because that's probably how they contract it.
No, it's not always parents. It can be grandma, it can be auntie, it can be other children at daycare. Kids put everything in their mouths. I mean, it's not necessarily the parents. And parents who do have HSV1 and do experience cold sores, if you know enough about your herpes and how it relates to your body, and you refrain from kissing your child during outbreaks, prodrome symptoms, or a low immune system, you can very much well still kiss your children and love on your children. It's just the lack of knowledge. People who are so stigmatized, they say so caught up in the stigma, they don't learn what their virus is and how it works. The more knowledge you have, the more comfortable you have, the more you'll be able to protect the people that you love around you.
Amen. Vanilla Vibes, don't leave. Ask another question. So I mean, I want to understand. I understand what you're saying, but she's just saying something different. You guys just disagree on that. And I mean, I'm going to be honest. I think that if you're laying down with someone it is your responsibility to ask them for their results. I don't think that they have to give you a list of names of who they've been with.
Yeah. They can tell you if they want to tell you.
If they want to.
That my last partner had herpes. If they want.
Tony Ambrose, she said, do you know who gave it to you? We talked about that in the beginning. She's not sure because you can contract it and not show symptoms for a long time. So she's not really sure exactly when she contracted it. Desiree said, how do you get cold sores?
Skin-to-skin contact with somebody who has the herpes virus, and you have to come in contact with where the virus entered their body. That's how you get cold.
Tony asked, it doesn't make you uncomfortable having sex with herpes? We talked about it, how she kind of had to like get back in touch with herself, get back, you know what I'm saying, get comfortable with herself and her vagina. And you know what I'm saying?
When I was like, or yes. When I was insecure, yes.
Ashley said, I don't think she can expose anyone and do y'all homework. Yeah.
I don't know, or don't, from my knowledge, I've never given anyone herpes, including my son, and he came out of my coochie. So there's that.
Well, you know what Ashley is saying is that you can't do their homework for them. You know, you have to do your own homework with whoever you choose to lay down with. I mean, you know, anyone in this chat, I'm sure y'all have laid down with people and never asked for, because I've done it. I didn't ask.
9 times out of 10, you already been with somebody who has herpes, because there's more people in the world with herpes than without.
Yes. And if you missed that in the beginning, we said there's 85% of people with herpes who do not know that they have herpes. So honestly, you've probably had sex with a person who had herpes already. So tomorrow, you guys call your doctor, schedule an appointment, and ask for the HSV testing. Okay. All right. So we spoke about cold sores, the difference, because I just find it so interesting, because you even said that it's the same medication.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that, because the commercials on TV, it's like stuff that you put on your lips, and it makes it sound like
the Abreva and stuff has lysine in it. What is lysine? Lysine is an essential amino acid that the herpes virus cannot thrive when present in abundance inside of the body. So your lip balm has lysine in it. So it's going to be catered to cold sores, because lip balms are for lips. But if you look at it's the same stuff that anybody with herpes, whether they have it on their fingers, their face, their butt, their legs, inside of their mouth, in their throats, inside of their vaginas, on their genitals, on their lips, just no matter where it is, we use lysine. We are prescribed the same 3 antivirals. We need to do, the virus works the same. It lives in the nervous system. It likes to shed when the immune system drops. It's the same thing. It's just a different location.
And Deja is trying to explain a little further what Vanilla Vibes is saying. So basically, they want to know, like, do you believe like it's their business to know, or it's not their business to know? They're like, which one is it? Is it the next person's business, or is it not their business?
Your business is what you make it. I don't know what you do with your sexual partners, but before I have sex with anyone, I have the sex talk. I'm asking them if they ever had an STD. I'm asking them when's the last time they've been tested. When was the last time they had unprotected sex? When can we both go get tested so we can review our STD results? I'm doing what I need to do. So it really doesn't matter what I think. If I feel like they need to know, or if they don't need to know, I'm doing what I need to do for my own sex health, and I'm being responsible. What are you doing?
And I think the bigger question, y'all, is these men that you're having encounters with, do you trust that they're telling you the truth? Because if you do, then you don't have anything to ask. Ashley Francois said, we got to stop sending ninjas 5 attachments and ask them for 5 my charts.
Yeah, you do. If you want to let somebody enter into you, why not? Why not take it that serious? You just want to, you're having unprotected sex or protected sex based on if somebody told you if they had sex with somebody else with herpes or not, they could lie about that, and you just gonna have sex with them because you felt like they told you the truth because you trust in the vibe. See where I'm
Yeah.
going?
Yeah. So that's Aura brought it up again. And I completely understand what you're saying, Aura, that they should tell you I've had sex with someone who currently has herpes, but ultimately that's up to the main or the person that you're laying down with to do.
Someone said men barely get tested. No, men and women. It's not
men
just
and women. Men and women, because like you said, herpes is not a part of the standard testing. So even if you go in to get tested, herpes is not included in that. You have to literally ask.
He recommends against testing for herpes.
So Ann Rose says, so you can only spread it sometimes or pop up positive sometimes.
Being with someone with herpes is not guaranteed that you're gonna get herpes. Dating someone with herpes doesn't mean, oh my God, you're gonna have herpes. That's not how that works. Alexandra Habuska, the founder of Life with Herpes, has been with her husband for over 10 years. She has HSV type 1 and type 2, genital herpes, and she has lip herpes. And her husband, to this day, still doesn't have herpes. Why? Because she's an advocate and she's very knowledgeable about her virus and she knows what's going on. But being with someone with herpes is not a guarantee.
Being with someone with herpes is not guaranteed that you will contract it.
Yes.
Ashley Francois said, I do strongly agree. You should get tested once you change to a new partner. So should you get tested every time you switch partners?
You should get tested. If you're actively having sex, you should be getting tested quarterly.
Tiffany said, females too, they wait until they got an itch or a bump to be concerned. Well, that's how our guest found out, Tiffany. You weren't here earlier. She got a bump. But that brings me to my next question. What are some other symptoms? Like you said, a lot of people don't even break out, so they don't know that they have herpes. So are there any other symptoms?
I mean, other than an outbreak, there's prodrome symptoms, but I can list all the prodrome symptoms today and you can still experience those symptoms and not have herpes. So a lot of people want an answer from me so that they know what to expect, what to happen. Even a lot of people in the community who are asymptomatic, they're like waiting for an outbreak to happen, and that may never happen. I spent time learning about a lot of different STDs, and majority of them are people who are diagnosed with them are asymptomatic, don't show any symptoms. There's people with gonorrhea who don't show symptoms, syphilis who don't show symptoms, chlamydia who don't show symptoms, trich that don't show symptoms, HPV who don't show symptoms. So waiting for a symptom or asking me or trying to see, if when I sleep with my next partner, I'm going to look for these things so I know for sure that they don't have something. I'm not going to give you that because they can have nothing at all down there and still have everything.
And Sabrina says that women get tested more than men. I'm sure that's true. But what I'm saying is that, you know, we have all these other things going on where we can feel these yeast infections, we can feel this or that. But what we're saying is that even if you have some type of symptoms like a yeast infection and you go to your doctor, majority of the time they're not including some tests when you get tested. And it's a fact. Like they're just not. You can Google this because that's how I found out when I was going to interview Amber, was that, you know, OBGYN, primary, whoever, they're not testing you for everything. You have to ask.
Some women don't even know that some women think that a pap smear is an STD test.
Yeah. And it, you know, Ashley Francois said, what's that? What did you mean, girl? Ann Rose said they don't show symptoms. Yeah, a lot of STDs don't show symptoms. Vanilla Vibe said, I'm not being shady, but y'all ain't take health class in high school. First of all, a lot of that shit in high school is wrong, girl. You better go. Them high school classes did not teach you to write, and the information. Yeah. Information changes daily, you guys. I don't give a fuck what you know today. Tomorrow, you might learn something else. Don't think that what you learned 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago still stands today. The way the world moves, and that's one thing that really bothers me about people in everything, is that what you know today is not what stands tomorrow. You really need to keep up on information. You know, what we learn in high school is not what is happening today. So update yourselves. And that's no shade either. But anyway, so you said, you know, that there's no other symptoms really. But you guys, girl, info changes every day. It really does. It really does. You know, when you go to work tomorrow, something's different. Guess what? That's what everything in life, something is different tomorrow. But anyways, you guys, I want to end this conversation. Well, I invited Simone on, but she didn't come on. Tiffany said yesterday's info is not today's info. Amen. It's not. All right. So I want to end this with, you know, I love that you found yourself. By the way, like, that can stand for a lot of things, you guys, because, you know, she had to find herself, and you started talking to that doctor to get in touch with your yoni, with your coochie. That's what I call it. And, you know, that can stand for a lot of things. Like, when you're not comfortable with yourself for any reason, it's not just STDs. When you're just not comfortable with yourself, you know, like me, for example, STDs scare me, girl. I'm not gonna lie to you. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not gonna sit here and act like I'm okay with it. But they do scare me, and I think that that's always been like something in the back of my mind with men, like, because I don't know if you're telling me the truth, and I've never asked for an STD result, but it's something that I am gonna do going forward because of our conversations.
I just want to tap in on the fact that it does scare you, and that's fine, and that's okay. And I wanted to hone in on with me, though, when it comes to what I want for me. There's a lot of people who come in my life, but you can tell they're a little bit scared. I'm not for the scared. I don't want to be with anybody who is scared. You can walk away from me now. Having me is a big flex. Go ahead and walk away, because I deserve to be loved in full and how I want to be loved. So if you're scared, walk.
I totally agree with you.
Don't miss out on the blessing. That's how I
totally agree with you. And my conversations with you and with Amber, you know what I'm saying? This is why I have these conversations, because we need to I feel like we've spent so many years dehumanizing people who have STDs, and we need to reverse that.
Because it can easily be you. With just a handshake, you can get herpes. So
but you know, what do you say to someone who has it but just doesn't feel comfortable being open about it, doesn't feel comfortable, and not to your extent? Like, I know not everybody's gonna get online and scream that they have herpes. Yeah. But, you know, to the girl or the boy who just found out that they have herpes, like, what's your advice?
My advice is take time for you. When you take time learning about yourself, working on yourself, developing yourself spiritually, mentally, physically, financially, and start showing up for you, you learn how to love yourself. You learn your self-worth, and you care less and less and less about what somebody else is going to say and think about you. The stigma is fueled by validation. And you are literally living your life for the opinions of other people and how they're going to feel and think about you. You'll never live a fully authentic life living that way. Someone's opinion of you is not going to wipe your ass, pay your bills, give you an orgasm, anything like that. So spend time on you, and you'll start caring less and less about what somebody else has to say about you, and you'll start seeking validation from within. That's how you break the internalized stigma. The minute you accept that narrative, it will become your reality. So it's up to you to make sure your mind gets to the destination of where you want your life to be, so that your life has the opportunity to catch up.
Amen. Tiffany said that goes for everything. Amen. Thank you so much for coming on, especially on Facebook, because nobody wants to go live on Facebook anymore, girl.
It's okay. Thank you for me. I appreciate you. You are beautiful. I love your platform.
Thank you.
Doing you.
You are too. Good night.
Good
night, guys.